That one shout could shake the walls of any 90s arcade, and if you were there, you felt it. Killer Instinct didn't just show up, it crashed the fighting game scene with breakneck combos, digitized fury, and a soundtrack that hit like a freight train. Born in the shadow of Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter, KI dared to be louder, faster, and cooler, and it pulled it off with style to spare. From the arcade glory days to the surprising genre-defying reboot in 2013, this is the story of a series that never stopped swinging. Get ready to relive every knockout, every comeback, every godlike combo. This is Killer Instinct. In 1994, amidst the golden age of arcades, Rare and Nintendo partnered with Midway to create a game that would push visual fidelity and combo-driven gameplay to the forefront of the fighting genre. Killer Instinct arrived in arcades with thunderous flair, digitized characters, full-motion video, and a hard-hitting techno-industrial soundtrack by Robin Beanland and Graham Norgate. Built on proprietary hardware called the Ultra 64, co-developed by Rare and Midway, the game boasted pre-rendered 3D models compressed into sprites, a look that predated Donkey Kong Country and stood out starkly next to its sprite-based peers. The gameplay centered on long combo chains, combo breakers, and the flashy Ultra combos, devastating finishers that sent crowds into a frenzy. And with every escalating hit, the booming announcer's voice cut through the arcade buzz. Sounds so iconic they could draw a crowd from across the arcade. For many, just hearing it brings back the electric energy of the 90s arcade scene. Its cast was distinct: Jago, the stoic monk; Fulgore, a cold-blooded cybernetic warrior; Orchid, a deadly agent; and Saberwolf, a tortured lycanthrope, each with their own personality, aesthetic, and musical theme. Porting KI to home consoles was no easy feat, yet in 1995, the SNES version arrived, showcasing impressive compression techniques that translated the arcade experience surprisingly well, albeit with simplified visuals and audio. Various regions also saw a special black cartridge for the game, as well as a limited range soundtrack CD called Killer Cuts, that came packaged with the game. The Game Boy version was an even more unlikely feat, a monochrome demake that somehow preserved core mechanics and most of the characters on limited hardware. These ports played a pivotal role in keeping the KI name alive beyond the arcade. Meanwhile, fans eagerly awaited the true Ultra 64 at home, what would become the Nintendo 64, and the next chapter in the franchise. Killer Instinct 2 debuted in 1996 and introduced time travel into the plot, sending the surviving fighters back to ancient times in pursuit of the evil Gargos, who was released from limbo following Idol's death at the hands of Orchid. Visually, it retained the digitized 3D sprites and pre-rendered stages, but added more fluidity and richness to the backgrounds, embracing a mythical and mythological tone that contrasted with the high-tech grit of its predecessor. The roster lost some characters from the previous game, but gained new ones. Series veterans like Jago, Saberwolf, and Glacius returned, alongside new characters Tusk, a Conan-style barbarian with massive sword strikes, and Kim Woo, a nimble martial artist fighting to fulfill a prophecy. These additions played into the time travel narrative and expanded the game's cultural and stylistic palette. Mechanically, KI2 made important refinements. The combo system was revamped to allow more flexibility, auto doubles and manuals were now the only parts of a combo that could be broken, and the logic had shifted. Punch-based attacks could be broken by kicks, and vice versa. The new parry, a precursor to future fighting mechanics, allowed advanced players to control the pace of matches with even more confidence. KI2 was well received in arcades, and much of its DNA lived on in the modified console version Killer Instinct Gold for the Nintendo 64 in late 1996. Killer Instinct Gold was the closest fans would get to a home version of KI2. Released exclusively for the Nintendo 64, it carried over the arcade game's characters, core gameplay, and pre-rendered 3D stages, now with more dynamic camera angles to showcase the environments. It omitted the arcade version's full motion videos and some voice work due to cartridge limitations, but compensated with new features like a training mode, team battles, and team elimination. The visuals were crisp for the time, they're not quite arcade perfect, and the fluidity of combat remains intact. The roster, though modest in size, was balanced well enough, and the game's commitment to over-the-top style helped it stand out among the N64's limited fighting game offerings. A Super Nintendo port of KI2 was reportedly completed, but never released. Brendan Gunner, speaking in Retro Gamer magazine, revealed he had been tasked with finishing the SNES version after other developers left the project. "I was unfamiliar with the code, but got that done. It was never published," he stated. It remains one of gaming's more curious what-ifs. Despite fan support, this would mark the franchise's final gasp before a long dormancy. As Rare shifted its focus to other genres, and eventually would be bought out by Microsoft, Killer Instinct quietly vanished from the fighting game landscape. For more than a decade, Killer Instinct lived on through fan nostalgia, emulation, and dedicated online communities. Its influence, however, lingered. Combo breakers became a genre staple, and many fighting games embraced long chains, flashy finishers, and stylish presentation. Rare's shift towards platformers, shooters, and Kinect titles under Microsoft's umbrella meant KI remained in limbo. Trademark renewals sparked rumors in the late 2000s, but nothing materialized. That was until a dramatic return at E3 2013, which reignited the spark.
Coming to your home in 2013, all on Xbox One! Jago! Glacius! Saberwolf!
In 2013, Killer Instinct was reborn as a launch title for the Xbox One, developed initially by Double Helix Games and later handed over to Iron Galaxy. This reboot honored the legacy while modernizing mechanics for a new generation. It was also free to play, offering one rotating character and letting players purchase others individually or in packs. Mechanically, the game retained auto doubles, combo breakers, and ultra combos, but added new systems like Instinct Mode, letting each character temporarily enhance their abilities. Counter breakers added to the mind games around combo breakers, and shadow moves which burned meter for flashy powered-up attacks. The game was divided into 3 seasons, each adding new characters, features, and balance tweaks. Season 2 expanded the roster with returning legends like TJ Combo, resembling his KI-94 model, but sporting surgical scars where his implants were removed, as well as KI2's Maya, alongside newcomers like Kan Ra and Aganos. Season 3 brought in crossplay with Windows 10, guest fighters like Arbiter from Halo, Rash from Battletoads, and General Ram from Gears of War. And fan favourites returned like Kim Woo and Tusk. The music, helmed by composer Mick Gordon in the early seasons, became one of the most defining features of the reboot. Gordon's aggressive, adaptive soundtrack gave each fighter a distinct theme that evolved during battle, mirroring the flow of the fight and adding unmatched energy to every match. Post-Season 3 saw the addition of characters like Kilgore, Shin Hisako, and Eagle, each bringing something unique to the table. Killer Instinct Definitive Edition was released in 2016, compiling all content, lore, and bonus materials into one package. After that, however, silence returned. I can't really not have a section dedicated to the music of this game now, can I? And if the gameplay brought the series back to life, the music gave it a soul. And that soul screamed through your speakers. Mick Gordon, the composer perhaps best known for his later work on Doom 2016, was tasked with reimagining the KI soundscape. What he delivered was nothing short of explosive. Each character's theme fused genre with personality. Jago's track blended traditional Asian instrumentation with modern synths and percussion, while Saberwolf's theme was a gothic metal storm of strings and chaos. Orchid's Touch Me track pulsed with techno swagger, and Spinal's haunting sea shanty turn metal became instantly iconic. And there's apparently a horn used in that track, made of actual human bone.
It's a little bit creepy, it's a little bit weird, it does freak people out when I bring it out at parties. It's a bone flute, and it's made from a femur, but it's a very particular femur. It is a human femur. and it's used in death ceremonies in Tibet. And once I got that and I put it into the beginning of the track, it really just set the deal, right? It just sort of nailed it.
Gordon didn't just write music, he sculpted dynamic compositions that reacted to gameplay. The dynamic music system meant that each combo, each ultra, each final blow triggered a layer musical flourish, ramping up the energy. It turned every match into a performance. The soundtrack wasn't just background noise, it was a centerpiece. The killer cuts of the 90s had returned, reborn for a new era, and fans ate it up. Official soundtracks were released digitally, and tracks like The Instinct and Warlord quickly found life beyond the game. After Mick Gordon's departure following Season 2, Cell Dweller and Atlas Plug stepped in for Season 3. They brought their own flavour, industrial, cinematic, and hard-hitting. Yet the spirit of KI's music remained intact, each character still with a unique voice, each match an audio spectacle. Following the definitive edition, the series seemed to fade once more. With no updates or word from Microsoft, fans launched the hashtag #BringBackKI campaign, led in part by popular fighting game content creators like Maximilian Dude.
Killer Instinct's a very special fighting game with a 25-year history within fighting game communities as well as fans. This thing has been around for a very long time, and it's my goal today to communicate to everyone over at Microsoft and Phil Spencer that this franchise is absolutely incredible and should be focused on for the next generation of consoles.
Their movement rallied support across the fighting game community, keeping the spirit of KI alive at tournaments and live streams. Despite the radio silence, occasional mentions from Xbox executives teased interest in the IP. Then in 2023, for the game's 10th anniversary, Killer Instinct received a surprise update. Balance patches, improved matchmaking, and native Series XS support. It was a love letter to longtime fans, and a sign that the franchise might yet roar again. Killer Instinct isn't just a relic of the 90s, it's a series that continually adapted, evolved, and returned with more force each time. It helped define a subgenre of fighters focused on spectacle, precision, and attitude. From arcade cabinets and Super Nintendo carts to Xbox consoles and global live streams, KI's legacy is built on momentum, always moving forward, always comboing into what's next. The music, the mechanics, the moments, and perhaps, in the not-so-distant future, another Ultra combo awaits. If this video brought back memories, taught you something new, or just got your hype levels rising, hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dives, and sound off in the comments with your favorite fighter or moment from KI history. Until next time, keep your instincts sharp, and always have that Killer Instinct.